Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me today in the locker room for Fan Appreciation Day. My daytime story begins with my mother and my dad's mother, who moved to the United States from Holland, and both of them learned to speak English watching As the World Turns and Guiding Light. And thanks to my mother, I was introduced to these shows in my early teens. I was a fan first, and thanks to my mom's introduction to this world, I landed my dream job in 1997 working on both shows where I remained for almost 13 years. Another daytime fan and a locker room fan as well, Michael Howland, sent me a message back in the summer of 2020, suggesting I incorporate some fans into an episode of my show. I've been trying to find the right way to do this and the perfect time, and I thought Valentine's Day seemed to be the appropriate and perfect time for me to say thank you to all of you for watching and being so supportive over these last 10 months. Stay tuned today to meet some of Daytime's biggest fans later on in the show. But first, my first guest today is another soap opera fan, just like the rest of us, who has watched soap since her early childhood. Stephanie Sloane grew up watching General Hospital, All My Children, Another World, and As the World Turns, along with Ryan's Hope and The Edge of Night. She landed her dream job right out of school in September of 1990 as the assistant editor at Soap Opera Digest, which she had read since she was 12 years old. Stephanie just celebrated her 30th anniversary with the magazine last September and currently works as the Vice President Editorial Director. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome my friend and colleague, Stephanie Sloane, to the locker room. Hi, Steph.
Hi, Alan. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Thanks
for being here. Thanks. I need a teleprompter, a real one, because it's so hard to do this with a Word document, but that's besides the point.
You did a great job.
We go a long way back. When I look at your 30 years, I realize I started 24 years ago. You were only there 6 years, which at the time, in my mind, you were there so much longer. But it's crazy how the time flies, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I say I've spent my 20s, 30s, 40s, and now 50s at Soap Opera Digest and in this business.
In the soap business, something you grew up watching. I mean, you watched a lot, which is amazing to me as a child, but who introduced you?
So my mom went back to work full time when I was around 7, but prior to that, she had Another World on in the background. So I feel like that was sort of my introduction into it. And that was like really back in the day of, I feel like it was Alma and, the real early Corey years. But at the same time, my earliest memory in life is being in my crib and standing up in it. And my, the mother's helper was watching Edge of Night. Like I could see the screen of Edge of Night on a black and white television in my bedroom when I was a baby.
Wow.
So that's how far back we're going.
That's crazy. Who was Alma on Another World? Because I didn't watch that.
She was like I think. I mean, again, this is like, I should know this because we're going far back to the 70s. But she was like a wacky woman who worked for maybe the Coreys. I feel like she had a mental break. She carried a doll or a blanket or something. Like it's all sort of in there, but specifics, maybe not as much.
And so Edge is your first memory. So, and then Another World. So how did the others, enter into the picture?
Oh God, I got sucked into Luke and Laura. Looking back, I really don't know how, but I was pretty obsessed with them. And I was going to sleepaway camp at the time. And it was the time that it was like The Left-Handed Boy and General Hospital that, song came out on the radio, and they would play it up in the station in Kent, Connecticut, where I went to camp.
I don't remember that. What is that?
Oh, there was a whole there was a song called General Hospital, and I could sing it.
Fantastic.
But sort of
I love it.
All of the characters, and they would play it like at 12, let's say 03 every day on this radio station. But they'd be calling us to lunch, and like you had to go, but I wouldn't go. I would wait to hear the whole thing, and then I would go to lunch. And that developed into my mother sending me Soap Opera Digest so I could stay in touch with the magazine and the shows, so I knew what I was missing every 2 weeks in camp. And I continued to read it. I read it through high school. And actually, when I went to college, two of my closest friends to this day who I met there were also soap fans and Soap Opera Digest fans. And the magazine came out a little early at CBS on Marshall Street at Syracuse. And we would hide it from each other, which looking back, I mean, sorry for what magazine sales we might have ruined back then, but we wanted to be the one who had it first so we could share like all the news that we didn't want the other one to know yet.
You just gave me a flashback because I know I must have done the same thing of going to stores to look for the ones that had the magazines first. I have this flashback. I totally did the same thing to see what was going to happen. That's wild. I had no idea. Yeah. You know, you just brought that. So Luke and Laura was definitely one of them. I was going to ask, do you remember other storylines that you were engrossed in, you know, back then?
Seriously? Yes. I mean, when I was in high school, it was Lily and Dusty, and then Lily and Holden on As the World Turns. I mean, I really,
Me too.
I was a teenager, I gravitated toward the teen storylines, but I really also did like the older people. But I mean, so let me say, it was All My Children. I loved Jenny and Greg. I loved Jenny and Jesse's friendship. I was so into that. But like as a kid, I wasn't really into Erica's stories, you know, like that wasn't what I connected to at that age. But so I watched All My Children, and then I got, you know, sucked into Days of Our Lives after they killed off Jenny, because I was that fan who said, I'm never going to watch again. Like she literally died on the jet ski. And the next day I turned the channel to Channel 4. And my sister was watching Days at the time. So that introduced me there. So I was a huge Bo and Hope fan. And just sort of the whole super couple era of the 80s was, you know, so amazing on Days.
Super couples was everywhere. Yeah. I mean, my one, I mean, I was upset at many things soaps did. I mean, Guiding Line and World Turns probably, because I would watch Young and the Restless here and there, and Bold and the Beautiful and Capital because my mother watched, but they weren't my thing. But you know, Scott DeFreitas being fired was so upsetting to me. Like, how could you how could you fire a family member? It was like a family, you know, it's like throw it, you know, kicking your son out of the house, basically, was what I thought As the World Turns was doing at that time.
Well, Capital had Sloane, which was the best, you know, character name ever in daytime, so I did also watch Capital.
And played by the fabulous Deborah Farentino, right?
That's right. But I do say that to show how devoted I am, my one story that I kind of tell people to explain my soap fandom at the time was that I went to a school in New York City on 62nd Street between Madison and Park, and my orthodontist was 2 blocks away, so I could get there very easily. And I had an appointment scheduled in November of 1981, and I said, I will only come, because it was at 3 o'clock. I said, and they had little tray tables, and I said, I will only come if I get to stay for the entire hour, because it is Luke and Laura's wedding. And looking back, I have no idea how I knew that it was Luke and Laura's wedding, and I don't even know if that was like a Soap Opera Digest thing, or I just was aware of it.
ABC probably put it, you know, ABC probably put it out there.
But I sat that whole hour and watched Luke and Laura's wedding on this tiny little television because I was not leaving. So I was committed.
That's wild. And then you attended the Newhouse School at Syracuse. What did you study there?
I studied TV, radio, and film management. So as part of that, you did everything. You wrote radio spots, you filmed on camera. I was not very good at production, so I was mostly the on-camera talent. They kept me away from everything that had to do with cameras or anything, or switchboards. That was not a thing for me. And, you know, I really wanted to do something in soaps when I graduated. I already lived in New York City, so there wasn't this big, rush to have to move there. So I kind of was not that motivated to get a job at first. And my parents were on me to get employment, and I sent a letter to all the soap operas trying to get, some entry-level position. It did not happen for me. And they wanted me to go to, at that time, I don't even know if they still have them, but it was a placement agency where, you go and you take a typing test and they find work for you.
Oh yeah, like a temp agency, yeah.
Yeah. And I had an interview at Rolling Stone, and I'm a huge music fan, so that was cool. And it was to be Jan Wenner's second assistant. So at the same time that was coming up, they were doing work on the roof of my apartment building, and I couldn't lay out. So my sister and I went to her friend's house across the street, and I met this guy. And I had woken up that morning and thought, you know what? I want to do something in soaps. Maybe I'll send a resume to Soap Opera Digest. So that was like a thought that morning in my head. And then I meet this guy and he said, what do you want to do? And I said, oh, something in soap operas. And he said, oh, well, I do advertising business with Soap Opera Digest. Why don't you give me your resume? So I did. And he didn't, I didn't even know at that time to do a cover letter or whatever. And I just gave him the resume. And then 2 weeks later, I think I called. And the woman I had sent it to was like, oh, I didn't even know if you were interested because you didn't even put a cover letter with it. I said, no, I'm very interested. So at the same time I went into Rolling Stone, I just have to say that I was interviewed. They asked me where else I was interviewing. I said Soap Opera Digest. The girl who interviewed me thought that was the strangest thing ever, as these were mutually exclusive thoughts to like soap operas and music. I didn't get that job. I have not bought Rolling Stone since. It's only been 30 years. I don't grudge or anything. But I went in, I got an interview to be Meredith Berlin's assistant, and she was the editor-in-chief at the time. Lindley, he was the managing editor, so I would work for both of them. I went in, and at that time, there was a columnist named Diva Von Dish, and it was someone on staff. I didn't know who. My friends and I thought it was Meredith. So I kind of thought this could be my only opportunity. And I went in and I said, after the interview, I said, I just have to ask you one thing. Who is Diva Von Dish? And she said, I can't tell you. So anyway, I leave and I go home. It starts pouring rain. I finally make it home like 45 minutes later. My phone is ringing because there were no cell phones in 1990.
Yeah.
And Meredith. And she said, I want to tell you, you got the job. And I'm going to say it because it's this many years later. She said,
right.
She said, Robert Rourke is Diva Von Dish. And I was like, oh my God. So
Mind blown. Mind blown.
So I started 2 weeks later.
New York City, New Jersey for me, I was working at a health club as a sophomore in college, and a customer at the spot asked me what I wanted to do. And I was planning to go into accounting. And I said, I really want to work in the entertainment industry. And someone who was overhearing the conversation said, I work in personnel at ABC. You should apply to be at Page, and changed my life.
That's amazing.
You never know. And just be open to that conversation. Like that guy,
right.
It's crazy. And I did the same thing you did out of college. I didn't know, I hadn't worked in communications yet. Mm-hmm. Communications came later, but my first application was to DB&B, which was the ad agency at the time for As the World Turns and Guiding Light. And nothing happened. And they said they'll hold on to my resume. And like 10 years later, I got a call. It was kind of bizarre.
Wait, for them?
Yeah. I mean, it's bizarre.
Really holding on to a resume.
Yeah. I think it was something like that. But I definitely applied just like you did right out of college. But I didn't get it. You luckily did. Do you remember, is it possible to remember the first digest you bought?
Oh, gosh.
Like who was on the cover?
No, I really don't remember, but I do have a memory of Bo and Hope being on one of like a cover in, let's say 1983. And I was so excited. I know the newsstand I bought it at, I saw it. It was like, oh, it's Bo and Hope, and I bought it. So I do remember that. And what's funny is in our old office, the one where I started working, where I first started working, in our conference room, they had covers all over. They were just, every cover was.
Yeah.
So it was 1976 when the magazine, 1975 when the magazine started. I started in 1990. There was 15 years. At that time, we weren't weekly. So it wasn't like it was that many, but I could tell you today where every cover was on the wall.
On the wall.
Because we were in that conference room for so many years that all the covers start to blend, but I know exactly where they stood.
What was it like walking in the door the first day?
Oh my God, crazy. It felt really surreal because I had read the magazine, because I was so into soaps. To actually be there was, it was a dream come true. It was a dream job.
Oh, and you knew everybody's name.
Oh yeah.
Who you were meeting.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you see them in print. I mean, Meredith's name I knew for years. Lynn's name I knew, and then your name.
Superstars, I mean, it was so exciting. And I have to say, like, from day one, it was a small staff, not compared to today. My staff is so much smaller, but the staff at the time was still small for putting out this magazine, and they were all really so welcoming. And because we weren't weekly at the time, there was so much more time to mentor, to be a mentor to younger, newcomers or editors. I mean, I wasn't even an editor at that time. I was an assistant. So it was really Donna Hoke, who covered Guiding Light, who ultimately showed me how to cover shows and how to do a set visit. And because the first couple of years, all I really did was transcribe tapes. And so then you get a sense of how to interview people by hearing other people interview people. And then you see what you should do and shouldn't do. But probably the best thing about when I started was I was the hugest Knots Landing fan, and we covered primetime very heavily then. And we would get the actual scripts to recap. And that to me was so exciting. Like, to
Knots Landing script.
Yeah, that was the best.
That's incredible. Dinah Anderson just said, I was 10 years old when I got my first soap opera digest. I'm 56 and I still get them. That's pretty great. Do you remember your the first actor you interviewed?
Yes, actually do, because this is pretty funny. It's a pretty funny story. So we went to the Soap Opera Digest Awards, which was also another thing that I couldn't believe that I got to go to, because that was also such a big deal. Like, this is a huge primetime award show.
Those were so much fun.
They were the best. I feel badly for people who were there today who never got to experience them, because it was. But Meredith was the executive producer, so as her assistant, I had a lot of busy stuff to do there.
Yeah.
Anyway, she and I are walking in the hallway, and we run into Ian Ziering, who had played Cam on Guiding Light.
Yeah.
And he was talking to her, and he said, "Oh, I have this new show. It's called Beverly Hills 90210. Would you guys do something with me?" So when we got back to New York, Meredith said, "Will you, how would you want to interview Ian?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I'm on the phone.
Oh, I wish I knew that first. I would have called Ian today for this.
You would never remember. We're going back.
No, I know, but I would have told him
29 years maybe. And while he and I were on the phone, he said, "Listen, I have a friend here. He was on Loving. Will you interview him? His name is Luke Perry." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I did Ian and Luke together. And then when that show exploded, for maybe the 10 minutes of Luke Perry that I got, we printed every single word. So it was exciting.
Sad story. Ian came to see me do a play when I was in college.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's embarrassing. But
no, it's not.
I feel like I'm turning 12 shades of red. Do you have a favorite? I mean, I can't even imagine how many weeks of magazines you've done, but do you have a favorite cover?
Like of all time? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, is it possible?
I joke that my favorite wedding cover is actually Sloane and Trey's from
was it in a DC pic? Yeah.
Because it was so pretty, like I just loved it. But oh my God, they're Luke and Laura's wedding. I mean, there's so many. I couldn't even say it, because we used to do, we had these elaborate cover shoots. And I remember for Young and Restless's, I think it was 25th, maybe, we did a gatefold cover. No, maybe that might be overstating. It might have been 20th. And like, so, there was a third piece that came, or two other pieces that came out of the cover. So it was cool. Like, it was just different. But there were so many. I couldn't pick a favorite. Yeah.
Before we bring out the fans, is there a soap that if you had your druthers to bring back, you could right now?
It's so hard, because my gut, when you said it was Another World, because I just had such a connection. It was the first show that I also ever covered at the magazine. So that was always
yours.
Exciting. That was mine.
Yeah.
So Donna would take me to Guiding Light, and that was a really cool time on Guiding Light. It was around 1992, so that was Harley and Mallet, and Nick and Mindy.
Yeah.
And like Camp and Jilly's wedding we went to, like we got to cover that behind the scenes. So there was so much, excitement of getting to do that. And then when I covered Another World, it was when they used to do those special episodes like Murder on the Orient Express, and I got to go to that. And because it was in Brooklyn, the cast was just really cool. cool and inviting because there wasn't a lot of, there wasn't like a lot of game in town at that point. So I would show up and people wanted to talk. And so it was always such a great experience to be my first show that I covered, but I also had such a connection to it from when I was younger. I would say Another World. Followed by As the World Turns probably would be a very close number.
I thought that would be in there. But
yeah.
Are you ready to meet some diehard fans?
Definitely.
So I'm so excited that Michael suggested this idea because I really do owe all of the success of the Locker Room to the fans who have been watching for these last 10 months. I'm glad I could brighten a pretty tough time for all of us because it's helped me just as much as it's helped all of you. Michael Howland's dad can blame the babysitter for his soap addiction. His babysitter was a major As the World Turns fan and watched the show while she was watching him and his siblings over the summer. The Kidnapping of Franny Hughes by Marcia was his introduction in 1986 when he was 10. At 13, he started watching Guiding Light at the peak of the Sunny Solita story and continued watching. He added Bold and the Beautiful and the Young and the Restless. And we should give credit to the CBS promo department for getting him hooked on all of them. One of his childhood crushes was Susan Marie Snyder, who played Julie Snyder. Charlie Huntley is a fourth or fifth generation fan of World Turns and Guiding Light. He watched every day with his grandmother, affectionately known as Nanny Black. Charlie took flack for being a boy who watched the soaps and was sadly called a lot of names. He, just like me, didn't care because we loved our shows. And you know what else he loved? He loved getting the newest edition of Soap Opera Digest every 2 weeks. If he made good grades every Friday night, was grocery store night before Dallas and Falcon Crest. He made those good grades and got the magazines. One of the earliest memories of Charlie is the Slut of Springfield. Maybeth, I'm sorry, I'm not going to say your last name. I'm going to let you do it so I don't butcher it. Locher, I think. Started watching her soaps at 8 years old and is 65 today. Her first soaps were Guiding Light, As the World Turns, The Secret Storm, and Love of Life. Her dad had an appliance store, and the stories were always on the TV because once they began broadcasting in color, they looked great in the store. He always had Bruce and Vanessa from Love of Life on the screens. Maybeth watched Sonny and Brenda back in the day with her son, and today watches with his daughter. Another, story of passing it down from generation to generation. Susan Mack is a fourth generation viewer. Her mom, Nana, and great grandmother devotedly tuned in to the CBS lineup. In return, The Young and the Restless, Bold and Beautiful, and As the World Turns family heirloom passed on down to her. First memories from 96, she was 4. Victor being shot by Mary Jo Mason, everyone in Oakdale attending John and Lisa's engagement party, and her older brother and she spent countless afternoons with their Nana watching the drama in Generous City and Oakdale unfold. And lastly, in this group of fans is Ashley Morgan, who grew up with her mom and both of her grandmothers watching the CBS lineup of soaps. Along with the CBS soaps, her mom watched General Hospital. One of her earliest memories is when she was 3 and her mom introduced her to General Hospital and she heard Finola used. She heard Anna's voice and referred to her as the lady with the pretty voice. Growing up, Ashley was legally blind. She had very little sight in her left eye and no vision in her right. At 11, it was decided that she would learn Braille and how to use a cane to get around. With those skills, she went to her grandparents, and at the time, Hope, played by Signe Coleman, was on The Young and the Restless. Her grandmother began telling her about the character of Hope, who was blind. Ashley was so intrigued and thought it was so cool that there was a blind character on a soap. She wanted to see this for herself and sat down to watch an episode of Y&R with her grandma, and sure enough, Hope was on. That's the day she became a fan of Young and the Restless. During those 2 weeks with her grandma, she also became hooked, of course, on the rest of the CBS daytime lineup. Please welcome Michael, Charlie, Maybeth, Susan, and Ashley. All right, here we go. Michael, Ashley, Maybeth, Charlie, and Susan. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Did I not put Ashley's? I can't see Ashley's picture. Let's try again. Ashley, I'm not seeing you right now. Can you hear me? Hey, Ashley, can you hear me?
I think she's muted, Alan.
Ashley, can you hear me? Hold on, guys. I'm going to remove every... Hold on a second. Ashley, can you hear me? I don't know what's happening. Ashley, can you hear me? Ashley? I'm going to kick Ashley from the studio. Hopefully, she can sign back in. I know she had her friend there. So Maybeth, Michael. Somebody's audio I'm having a little trouble with. Charlie might be you. And Susan. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. What are you holding up, Michael?
This is a soap opera digest that I was featured in with the sound off. So I figured just to celebrate that I'm just as much a big fan of soap opera digest as the shows that I watch. So thank you, Stephanie, for all that you did.
I actually picked the sound off letter still to this day. So
Oh, somebody's having some audio issues. I'm trying to figure out who it is. Hold on. It's definitely Charlie. Charlie, I'm going to kick you off. Can you sign back in? And if you have a headset, try that. All right. There's Ashley. Are you there?
Okay.
Ashley, you there? Ashley, can you hear me?
There's one person on.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, you can hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
So, okay, great. Can you tell me, your introduction to Hope on Young and the Restless? Oh, I think Ashley froze. Oh, come on, Ashley. Well, Steph, why don't you talk? Can you talk to everybody? Sorry, I'm going to try and send her. I'm going to send her a quick message. See if she can use her phone.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna go how I see you guys. I'm gonna go left to right. I'm gonna start with Susan. Hi, Susan. So Susan, tell me the first show you ever watched and what got you hooked on soap.
So I grew up watching soaps, and basically the CBS lineup, Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, As the World Turns. Guiding Light was kind of the odd man out because, and I have two theories. One, it was just too long to watch 3.5 hours of soaps. Also, maybe it was possible that the tape just didn't tape everything. So my mom was like, "Hey, let's get the first 3 at least." But she grew up watching Guiding Light as well. I don't know, some of the stories that really stick out in my mind, other than the few that Alan mentioned, is as a kid, Veronica Landers shooting Nikki Newman. To this day, that is seared in my memory because she was so scary as a villain. And then you have, villains like Sheila or James who are like scary but not that bad. I mean, you're kind of rooting for them a little bit. So those are some of my earliest memories about soaps, and it was a tradition, so I continued with it.
Right. Okay.
Ashley, can you hear us now? Ashley, can you hear us now? Okay.
Oh, I feel badly. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
me
Charlie,
too. Steph, I'm going to let you continue on that. I'm going to call her.
All right, Charlie, your turn. Favorite show or favorite couple of all time?
Oh, favorite show, Guiding Light.
Favorite couple?
Josh and Reva.
Mm-hmm.
And
favorite characters?
I'm sorry?
Favorite characters?
Maureen Bauer.
Mm-hmm.
I was devastated when she was killed off the show, and but definitely loved Reva and had the opportunity to meet her twice in person at the Hard Rock Universal in Tampa and also Universal Studios in Orlando. Just wonderful people. Love the fans. Thanked us for watching the show. And it was we met shortly before the show was canceled. So it was a really great experience. My sister went, my mom went. It was a really great experience to meet them.
Could you imagine Maureen Bauer being killed off today with the internet the way it is? Like, there was no message.
Oh, no.
That wasn't a thing back then. Like, we just got flooded with letters, I remember, and there was general outrage, but there wasn't a way to really communicate that, globally.
Absolutely.
In
Yeah,
the way
it
that
was,
it is now.
I always think back to that was probably the worst decision that an executive producer ever made on a show.
Yep, agreed. Maybeth, your turn.
I agree.
Characters?
What a great honor to be with you. I read your magazine. I have all the celebratory issues.
Thank you. We love doing those. Those are so much fun to put together. Thank you for
I
finding
listen
them.
to every one of your podcasts.
Oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed.
Everyone, and I get your magazine. So,
Oh,
and Alan,
thank
you have been the bright spot of the pandemic.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
So, what about you? Favorite characters?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been watching since I'm 8 years old, but I love Steve and Kayla, and I thought that was just a beautiful, beautiful love story. It really got to me. Of course, Bo and Hope, but something about Steve and Kayla. I think every single soap has its own personality, and that's why I enjoy it. It's very unique. Each soap has its own personality, its own soundtrack, etc. And I've just always loved soaps. I've always
give
thought
me
it was
1
wonderful.
second. Maybeth, just give me. Ashley, if you can hear me, can you try and use your phone, please? Ashley, if you can hear me, use your phone. Ashley, can you hear me? Oh, poor girl. I
know.
All right.
All right. Well, Maybeth, continue. I feel like you're the only
Yeah,
date.
sorry. Yeah. Please continue.
I've just been watching so many years. And, recently, about a year ago, somebody said to me, oh, my show has been on for, I think it was 11 years, a nighttime show. And I said, really? Because my favorite show has been on for 55 years. But, I've never, people have kind of made you feel sometimes, oh my God, you watch soaps. And I always say, you don't understand. These are the shows that are here. They've been here for 75 years. What's not to like?
Right.
And I also just wanted to say quickly that it was when reality show TV started, I started watching these, which I felt were ridiculous shows. And when the girl threw over the table on the reality show, I said, oh, that should be Sammy Brady. And every single time there was some ridiculous thing on a reality show, I would think in my mind, which soap star I thought should do that.
Right. Well, I will tell you that if I was ever homesick from school, I would get in a lot of trouble with my parents. I was rarely sick, so it's kind of crazy. But they're like, you just want to stay home and watch soaps. So it ended up being their favorite story to tell that I wound up actually having a job that incorporated my passion, my television passion. So I got a lot of grief for it for many years, and then, it became my career. Okay, Michael, let's not forget about you. So tell us, your career. Well, you obviously have Digest, so I love that. Thank you. But how you got into soaps or what you love about them?
Yeah, Alan said it. I started when I was 10. My babysitter was watching As the World Turns. Franny was kidnapped, and I got sucked in. And it didn't take long before that massive story of Lily's paternity came out with Rod, Josh, and Iva, and that blow up, that scene in the barn with Iva with the pitchfork was unforgettable. Probably one of the most intense and well acted scenes I've ever seen between all three of them. So, and but I fell in love with the scoundrels. I mean, from Jane Stenbeck to Lucinda, Kirk, and Henry, and Tom. I remember Lisa always saying Kirk the Jerk Anderson. I mean, the scoundrels were so much fun. that James Stenbeck hiding in the McKechnie Castle with the secret passageways.
Mhm.
Nobody had a secret. As soon as you were sharing your secret, somebody's around the corner listening to it. You know, it was just incredible fun. And then adding Guiding Light, Bold and Beautiful, and Young and the Restless. I watched Bold and Beautiful from the start, and all of these shows just have a huge part of my heart. The Snyder Barn and Emma. I mean,
And the Hubbard Squash.
Hubbard Squash. Thanksgiving's the
Yes.
best time on World Turn. Yeah.
I would give anything to meet Kathleen Widows. She felt like mama to me. You know,
Well, my dream is to get Mama Snyder and her daughter Iva together.
Oh my
so,
gosh. Yeah.
Everybody put your prayers. Ashley, are you there? Can you hear us? Ashley, I see your picture. I just don't know if you can hear us. What a bummer. Continue. Hey, guys, do you all have a favorite Soap Opera Digest moment or story?
I just remember from the 88 Soap Opera Digest Awards, Stephanie, you were talking earlier about Diva Von Dish.
Uh-huh.
And I remember Kim Zimmer won for lead actress, and she called out Diva Von Dish for the clothing that she was wearing on the awards show that night, and about her going to a New Jersey mall for a sale. And that was just true Kim Zimmer. She let it out, and love Reva Shane and love Kim Zimmer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your Instagram has Reva's name in it.
Yes, and strangely enough, that was my dog's name.
Very funny.
I surprised my grandmother by bringing my dog home and lived with my grandmother and took care of her for a while. And she said, you ought to name that dog Reva because she doesn't listen, just like the lady on Guiding Light. So my dog became Reva Shane.
That's great.
That's so great. If you could bring one show back, do you have one you would choose?
As the World Turns. Right after that, yeah. That cast was tremendous.
That went too soon. When you look back now, I mean, it was so good when it went off the air that it's just such a shame.
Yeah.
I told.
Yep.
That was the only show I can ever remember. I grieved it. I mean, I literally went into mourning when it left, and I've never felt that way about any show, primetime or otherwise.
That's the connection that we all have to them. They become part of your daily life for years. You know these people.
Yeah, I mean, the success of the Locker Room is only because of the success to, all of our fans loving daytime so much and the connection everybody has made. I'm going to try again if Ashley can hear us. Ashley, can you hear us? She must be having internet trouble, but I'm going to do this anyway because I wanted to do this for all of you, but for Ashley especially. For those who may not remember, Signe Coleman joined The Young and the Restless as the blind heroine Hope Adams in 1993 and played her on and off for a number of years. She also joined the cast of Guiding Light as Annie Dutton, also known as Terry DeMarco. I have a surprise for Ashley, which she'll have to watch later, but please, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome my friend Signe Coleman to the show. Hi, Signe. Signe, can you hear us?
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Ashley's going to have to listen to this afterwards. She's going to have to listen to this. I think Ashley is having internet trouble. I think she's having internet trouble.
Sorry, I was really looking forward to speaking with her.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay,
we can hear you. And I know, I mean, it's to the power of what soaps really, the stories that soaps told, and your performance as Hope gave her something, to live, she got to live and witness how you were living your life. Ah, we just lost her too.
Mm.
The internet is not being our friends today, and I apologize.
It's Mercury in retrograde. I've had like Wi-Fi issues all week. So.
What a bummer, what a bummer, what a bummer. Well, thank you, You know, I know Michael had mentioned he loved Signia's
Oh my goodness.
Annie Dutton.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the contrast between her, you know, and then Annie. I mean, her chemistry with Eric Braeden was just masterful. It was beautiful, that romance. And then boy, what a villain.
There she is.
I'm so sorry. I guess everybody's having technical difficulties now.
Everyone's having technical difficulties.
Now, I'm not sure what part of the country Ashley's in, but I know there's a tremendous amount of snow buildup and freezing going on here, and I know it's affected my internet capability. So,
well, I know, I appreciate you wanting to say hello to Ashley. When I called Signy to do this, she was ready to jump on board and say hello. So, and now we just lost Maybeth, I think. Everybody's having troubles today. My God. Signy, I will try and connect you with Ashley at another time. How's
that's
that?
fine. I would love to speak with her. Seriously.
Okay, I will do that.
A lot of insight into the character.
I really appreciate you taking the time to stop by.
My pleasure. Always.
Bye, Signy.
Bye, Signy.
Everybody stay healthy
Signy.
and be well.
You too.
You too. You too. What a day with this internet thing. But before I let this group go, and I don't know what happened to Maybeth, has there been a locker room that you've loved?
All of them.
Stop. That's just because I brought you on here. You're saying that.
No.
I love the first one the best. The first one was, I thought, so special. Not that they all haven't been, but there was just something about when oh my God, when Don and Claire saw Scott in Mora with Mora, I just thought it was the sweetest moment. And seeing Kelly Minahan, who I feel like we haven't seen in so long, like that was so great too. And Michael Park, I just thought that was such a great reunion.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed the one with Maureen, Ellen Parker, and Lillian, Tina Sloan, Vanessa, and Rachel Miner, who played.
Michelle. I just put that up as an audio podcast for anybody who didn't get a chance. They can download that today.
Yeah.
That was fun to be able to get. I mean, because like you said, Charlie, that was a devastating thing for so many. So to be able to bring her on was, I thought, really special. It's been fun, And really, thank you to all of you. Thank you for writing into Stephanie and I. And thank you so much.
Thank you for reading the magazine. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry we've had such technical difficulties. It's probably because we have a lot of people here today. But I hope you all stay well. Keep watching. Keep reading.
Yes, please.
I love that everybody brought props too. So, all right. Have a great day, you guys.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Oh, poor Ashley. Poor Ashley. Poor Ashley. Charlie, see you, Charlie. See you, Susan. And see you, Michael. Thank you for doing this, Michael.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. I know there are some people who I told to come back. Robert Reed, come back. And I have to see who else now. Okay. So give me a second here. Here we go. Jesse Alexander tells it like it is. It was March 1988, and Reva Shane was in the hospital again, and so was her mother. But unlike Reva, who was fighting for her life again, her mother was giving birth to Jesse. Jesse was born at 3:47 p.m. Eastern while her mother watched Guiding Light in the delivery room. And it's been a bit of a family joke ever since. Her mother grew up watching Guiding Light, watching with her mother and Jesse's sister, and she grew up watching it with her. As a third-generation GL fan, some of her most impressionable memories stem from the 3 p.m. afternoons on the couch with her mom. I think we all can relate to that. Jesse says, after all, it's where she learned about everything from amnesia to long lost to Molotov cocktails. Robert Reed's soap beginning started in '88 when he found out his grandfather's cousin worked at ABC. He was lucky enough to have a great-grandmother take him into the Big Apple for an introduction into the worlds of Pine Valley, Landview, Corinth, and Riverside. Robert's world suddenly changed and he became hooked. He was 8 years old, and it was at a time where most of his friends were into cartoons and getting home from the Disney afternoon while he was rushing home to catch the last 30 minutes of One Life to Live. And then he discovered Guiding Light. Robert had a subscription to Soap Opera Weekly, Soap Opera Digest, and daytime TV. Remember that one, Steph?
Yeah, of course. That's probably where I found out about Luke and Laura.
Probably. I mean, I have issues of that. He used his allowance to buy 10-hour blank VHS tapes, which I can relate to record his favorite shows, One Life, All My Children, Loving, Ryan's Hope, and Guiding Light. With those tapes, he never missed an episode. Melissa Spinelli's journey started with As the World Turns. It has a special place in her life. When she was 4, her grandma Hicks would watch As the World Turns and Guiding Light. Grandma thought she was playing, but she was really watching, like Stephanie was, Dusty, Lily, and Holden, and Betsy and Steve. She says when they I love this. She says when they recast Meg Ryan and the show had this whole new face storyline, I was terrified that there would be nothing there when the bandages were removed. She remembers watching Lou, Jack, and Beth ride horses on the beach with the Almost Paradise song playing in the background, and Melissa wanted that when she grew up. Her grandmother passed away when she was 9, and she and her cousin got into a fight over who would get her Eileen Fulton book. Melissa won. In Melissa's letter, she mentioned that she came out to the University of North Carolina at Charlotte to audition for the Catch Us If You Can bus tour that featured Aaron, Lucy, and Allison. Little does she know, I was there too. Wendy Winnick grew up watching soaps in the 60s, mostly SNNC, and through her high school years along with her mom, her favorite shows were Guiding Light and Other Worlds, Search for Tomorrow, As the World Turns, The Young and the Restless. Wendy, as well as a longtime subscriber of Soap Digest and Soap Weekly, Wendy sadly lost her mom to COVID last April and mentioned that the Locker Room helped her cheer up. I'm so incredibly sorry for your loss, Wendy, and glad I could help in even a small way. Please welcome Jesse, Robert, Melissa, and Wendy. Jesse, Melissa.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, Melissa, what are you holding up?
Oh, the Eileen Fulton book that I won.
That's great. Oh, that's great.
It's pretty ripped up.
And that is classic Soap Opera Digest goodness over there, Robert. Okay?
I think Robert's got a treasure trove. But who's on the cover?
It's Love of Life.
Wow.
Meg and gosh, I just lost my train of thought there for a moment. Van and Meg, Vanessa and Meg.
Mm-hmm.
From Love Life, that was like the first Soap Opera Digest cover, right?
It was indeed with John Aniston on it, yeah.
Yeah. So I loved it. I just had to show a prop.
Love of Life. It was a cast shot, and John Aniston was one of the cast members. So That's always a fun little trivia fact that we have about the magazine, that he was on the first cover. And we were monthly then.
Oh, monthly then. Wow.
Monthly.
So Melissa, you came out for an audition at the University of Charlotte?
Oh yeah, that was such an awesome opportunity. I was an alumni of UNC Charlotte, so I had just graduated, and I was like, my favorite soap. Yeah, I'm going. So I had a great time.
Do you live in Charlotte?
Yeah, I live in the Charlotte area in Lake Norman. Yep. Yeah, we talked about that. Your sister.
Oh,
yeah.
we did. Yeah, my sister's about in Lake Norman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, great.
Awesome.
Yep. But I was there for that, for both the auditions and when we filmed there.
You didn't pick me.
I was the casting director.
Hey, Alan, I didn't get on As the World Turns, but I got on your show, so that's great.
We were there with the late, great Benjamin Hendrickson filmed on that campus.
I know. Oh, gosh. That would have been a good one.
Benjamin went to Charlotte and I think Indiana with us on that trip. That's an actor we lost way too soon. For sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. Hey, did anybody watch last night's ABC soap thing? What was it called? It
was the Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS concert. It was like a compilation of older performances that they used to do at Town Hall.
No, I missed it.
It was fun.
So, yeah, I didn't get to see it. I'm going to look if I can watch some of it online. Jesse, do you want to start what your favorite story on any show was?
Oh, gosh. Well, first of all, Guiding Light, only Guiding Light, fully dedicated. I got that from my mom. Hi, Mom. And so, favorite storyline is it's tough because I've been rewatching them, and I'll tell you, they really are so different to watch when you kind of know what the big reveal is going to be. You really appreciate the subtle foreshadowing, and just the writing's so good. But yeah, any Josh, Reva, Annie story any day. Come on.
Mhm.
That's funny. I know Susan from the previous group had gone back. You know, she had fallen off World Turns, but like you, Jesse, she's spending a lot of time on YouTube watching. You know, you know, I wish, you know, people ask me all the time, I wish I had the power. They probably ask you too, Steph. You know, if you know, could bring them back or put them on a streaming platform. I wish I had the power. Melissa, do you have a favorite story?
Oh my gosh. Just, you know, I tell you one I really liked was Lily, Damien, and the plane crash with Umberto Diego. That was so much fun. That was a really good, you were like, who survived? And I really enjoyed that one for sure.
You were petrified of Bronson Pickett, who played Umberto?
Yeah, I was like, you are so, like, I found him online and I was like chatting with him. I'm like, you terrify me. And he was like, that's so funny. He was the nicest guy. He was a lot of fun.
I was friends with Bronson long before he got on World Turns.
Yeah, he's a great person.
He's a good person. Robert, for you, and any show, not Guiding Light or World Turns, any show.
I would say my favorite storyline, I think, was the AIDS quilt on One Life to Live. That was my favorite. That was the most. And then the whole thing with Megan's death and how they put everybody back into it. And it became, One Life to Live became serious again and not campy, you know, with the Eterna storyline and everything else. So it was just a very interesting time of how they weaved that story together.
Well, I loved, Robert, what you said in your letter sort of about the socially relevant stories and how they helped educate you to things that you necessarily weren't familiar with in the world.
Right. And, you know, nice to meet you, Stephanie Sloane. I adore you. I listened to your podcast. I drove to Pennsylvania and listened to all of those that you did. What an amazing thing to do.
Thank you. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for reading and listening.
And it's an 8-hour drive, so I had a lot to listen to.
Good. Any ones you liked?
Yeah. I think the best one you just did recently was with Ken Corday. That was great. I loved it. And I love that he was so open and just talked about the whole history. I mean, it's great. Yeah, Alan, exactly. I think the biggest thing that I think people have this thing in their mind that soaps can't do really great stories. You know, they think of them as campy and bad acting and stuff like that. But I mean, I learned so many great things from them. And what I did was with my mom and my dad was they were very open to, I think, just, you know, let me have all those things, because back in the day, it was like $1.99 for a soap opera weekly or a digest. And so a subscription made more sense to them in the long run. But we would talk about all those things. And I think that, you know, that was a bonding time for all of us to talk about all that stuff. I think they were just so happy that I had a hobby, and not like kids have hobbies like, you know, picking up a clarinet. They didn't have to drive me anywhere. They thought, you can stay home and watch soaps. So, and then I got to meet people from the soaps, which was unheard of. I mean, you know, some of these people are my closest friends, and you know, it blows my mind when I think about it. I actually have a piece of Ryan's Hope set in my house. I mean, who has that?
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I mean, you know, I have Ray Woodard in my house, for God's sakes. I mean, who would have thought that would have happened to me? You know.
Wendy, I'm coming to you in a minute, but Ashley might be here. Ashley, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can.
Hey,
I'm on my phone, so
you look great.
my dad's with me now, so he's my camera guy. So
Okay, that's
I'm here. I'm
great.
so sorry about the connection problems.
Don't worry about that at all. I was just going to ask Wendy. I'll come back to you in a minute, Ashley.
Okay.
So Wendy, what was your favorite story?
You know, I remember watching Days of Our Lives when I think it was in black and white. So I won't tell you what my age is, but with Julie and Doug, and now you watch them and they're still on the show. And I mean, Doug is like 90, I think, or the actor that plays him. But, you know, when they had the families, the Horton families, and Guiding Light ended up being my love. So my mom was more into the NBC and CBS shows. But now I watch so many soaps. It's amazing how many there were that we watched. But my dream job was yours, Stephanie. I always wanted to work at Soap Opera Digest. So if you're looking for anybody,
You never know.
because I'm retired now, but I just love that publication. It's always a fun publication to read. And my mother subscribed it to me. So yeah, we lost her last year, but
Sorry.
you know,
I'm so sorry.
it was, and my dad, but my mom died of COVID, but my dad passed. So it was a rough year. So, I mean, Alan, I can't thank you enough for what, my husband would laugh at me because I was in the bedroom watching your reunion shows. But I really enjoyed it.
Sorry, husband.
Yes,
Sorry,
he's still hiding. But yeah, I mean, I really miss the soaps, and it was heartbreaking when Guiding Light went off the air, and you felt bad for them. I mean, so many people lost their jobs. But I love Knots Landing. That was another great one, Stephanie. That you talked. That's one of the best.
Favorite. Yeah,
absolutely.
Chip with the Michael Sabatino with the shovel.
Yeah, everything. I could go.
Everything.
I could go
I
every
know.
year and tell you what my
But
favorite.
that's like something that sticks out in my head. Ashley, I'm so sorry you had so much trouble. I was trying to call you to say to use your phone, but I'm glad you used your phone.
That's okay. I saw your email and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to try to use it on my phone. So yeah.
Good. So tell us about your introduction to Hope, and really Hope was your introduction to soap operas.
So like Alan said in my introduction, my grandmas and my mom watched the CBS soaps, and my mom watched General Hospital. And then when I was 11, I went to go stay with my grandparents. And by that point, I was learning Braille and how to use a cane. And my grandma was telling me about Hope because she told me, she's like, every time I see Hope, it makes me think of you. And I was really intrigued because at that point, I had never seen like any characters on TV that I could remember who were actually blind or visually impaired. So I'm like, ooh, that would be neat to actually see a character. So I sat down with her that day to watch it, and Hope was on. And I just instantly became a fan. And I was so like interested in just seeing how they portrayed Hope, because she was like an independent blind woman. And I would just gonna make me emotional. I was just so impressed about how Y&R portrayed her. And I remember just falling in love with the character, and she was so independent. And I was thinking to myself at the age of 11, like, I want to be that independent.
Well, it's important that we all see each other in whatever, format it is, and it's representation.
Yes.
And I'm so, I spoke to Signe last night, and she was here backstage to surprise you.
Oh
but I'm going to connect you at a later date with her.
Okay.
So you can talk to her. But
That
she
would
wanted
be wonderful. I remember I read an article. Actually, when I was learning how to use the computer, I read an article where she talked about she went to the Braille Institute in Los Angeles, and she studied like what it's like to be blind, and she studied under.
She told me that
rehab
story.
teacher.
She told me that story last night. Well, that's if you're going to portray a character that way,
yes.
It is important that she is portraying it with as much authenticity.
Yeah.
For people to understand what you know, what
Yes.
you're going through,
Yes.
you know,
And,
what
I
people are
loved
going
it.
through.
Yes, and I loved it that they made her blind the whole time. Like she didn't regain her sight. She stayed, you know, blind. And I think that was really important to have that portrayal, because I feel like all the other characters that I've seen who've lost their sight, they've gotten it back. And that's not how it can, you know, it can go. Like I had a little bit of vision and then I lost it. And I knew that it wasn't going to come back. I knew I couldn't get that miracle cure to bring it back. So I just love that Young and the Restless portrayed her like that, and just was so pleased over the years when they showed her that they stayed true to that.
Agreed. You know, I'm sad I didn't get to ask the first group this. You know, technical difficulties threw me off a little, and that happened. But I'm curious, have you ever dreamed of writing a story for your own favorite character? Wendy?
No, because I think they've covered like every story from, you know, what the clone story on Guiding Light, which was horrible and weird. You know, I think they've really done a great job on all the soaps, covering a lot of topics.
Has anybody thought of?
I want to interrupt just to say one thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like when we watch the shows, we all have ideas of like how I would do it, and like you know, I would never have written that. But then when I get on the phone, like I was on the phone, I think recently with Ron Carlivati, the Days of Our Lives head writer, and we were talking about a storyline, and I was like, I wouldn't do that. He was like, oh, really? What would you do? And then I'm like, well, that's not my job. Like, and the truth is, it's so much more, you know, they're looking at so many different characters and how they're all going to, you know, interweave, and how the future is going to play out that we just don't see yet. And there's so much layering to what they do that it's so easy to sort of criticize it and think like, armchair quarterback, you could do better. But it's so masterful, like what they're all able to really accomplish in a daily, you know, format that plays out all year.
It's kind of, if you think about it, like I just watched Ted Lasso or football, which Ted Lasso is about soccer, you know, but European football. But you know, they're planning the field, and that's what they're doing with, you know, our soap characters. I mean, there's 30, you know, some shows have 30 characters, you know, or a 30-minute has a lot less, but it's quite crazy.
But that balance
and the contracts.
And that balance on Bold and Beautiful is using everyone as much as they can in an 18 minutes of air that they get every day. So that's a challenge in and of itself for Brad Bell.
Yeah. And vacations and contracts and sick days and personal days and trying to balance all that out. Yeah.
It really is not. That's very unusual in soap. When you hear someone called out sick, you're like, oh wow, they must really be sick. You know?
Yeah, rarely. Is there a soap actor you've been dying to meet that you never had the chance?
Beth Ellers.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Oh, wait, can I tell my Beth Ellers story? I'm sorry. Sorry, Melissa.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Okay, so when I was a freshman at Syracuse, I was in a French class at like 8:30 in the morning. Second semester, I'm in my dorm and I'm watching Guiding Light, and I'm looking at this girl and I'm like, she was in my French class first semester. So cut to, yes, it was Beth. I meet her at Guiding Light, and I was like, oh my God, we went to Syracuse together. And I was so excited. And she kind of looked at me like, okay. Wait, you got a good ending. Cut to the next time I saw her, she's like, oh my God, I was such a B to you when I met you. And we actually like very close. That's and very hilarious. Good friends. But it was just so funny. So now we'd like to say we went to Syracuse together.
That's a total Beth story. That is.
Yeah, she's total, so
interesting. But she's so smart to realize that she knew that. That is Beth.
Oh yeah, I was really surprised.
Yeah, that's totally. So Melissa, you said Beth Ellers?
Mm-hmm. No, I was going to say, I'll meet anybody. Jesse said Beth Ellers.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gosh, Dr. Bob, Mara West, Martha Byrne, Kim Zimmer, Eileen Fulton, pretty much anybody. Now, I have met Eric Braden, who's amazing. If you get the opportunity to ever meet him, he's amazing. So that was like my best celebrity meeting for sure.
Ashley?
I would love to meet Tanya Walker. I loved her on General Hospital and One Life to Live. So I would love to have the opportunity to get to meet her. But I did have the opportunity. My mom took me to the General Hospital Fan Fantasy event when they were in Cleveland with the Legends of General Hospital, where I was able to meet Ian Buchanan and Tristan Rogers and Emma Sams.
Oh wow!
And Leslie Charlson and Jackie Zeman. And I had a General Hospital scrapbook, the coffee table books. And I had that, but then when I lost the rest of my sight, I wasn't able to read it anymore. And my mom had the wonderful idea to bring it with us when we went so they could autograph it for me. And I thought she got rid of the book when I lost the rest of my sight, but she kept it because she knew it meant so much to me. So I was able to take the book with me when I met everyone, and they signed it for me. So now I have the book in my house.
I think of Emma Sams and I think of Dynasty.
Right.
I didn't watch
Dynasty
General Hospital.
too, yeah.
I didn't watch General Hospital. Wendy, what about you?
I actually met Jeannie Cooper at a book signing about a year before she died. And she was lovely. And she's so tiny when I met her. Like, you think of her as this big character, and she was little, and she was so sweet. And then I met the whole cast of Guiding Light on their farewell tour, which I dragged my husband to as well. And they couldn't have been nicer. I mean, I've met, a bunch of them, so they were really nice. So, it would be nice to meet Luke and Laura, or Jeannie Francis and Tony Geary. That would be fun.
See, that's what I love. Like for me, I grew up basically CBS. My mother didn't change the channel, but it always amazes me. Stephanie watched every network. A lot of you watch different networks. It's just interesting. Generations different. It's either a network or you did bounce. The bouncing just seemed surprising to me because it's back then you had to get up and change the channel.
Yeah.
There were no. You had to make an effort to do that. That's what I mean. Like, today, of course, we all bounce around to everything. We watch 10 streaming platforms, but, back at the, so payday, you really had to make an effort to go and, I think that's why most people probably really stayed on a network, don't you? Wouldn't you think? I mean, like, it's probably the reason.
The timing of the shows.
Yeah.
I used two VCRs to record mine when I was in high school.
How many?
Two VCRs.
Oh, Steph's got company. Before we go, are there any other? I know Robert talked about the AIDS quilt. Are there any other socially relevant stories on the shows that had an impact on you?
I was going to say really quick, another one was the Vicky's DID from One Life to Live. That was a big one. And I think that it just opened up all those layers to Vicky. Erica Slezak, there's a reason why she won 6 Emmys. I loved her in that role, and I still miss her. It's one of those characters that was in our lives so long, and she was there for 41 years. And so I was so devastated about the whole Prospect Park thing, because that should have been a great thing to go, and I think a lot of people were upset too.
Well, it was ahead of their time. They were ahead of their time. If they did it now, I think they would be so much more successful.
I said it on my show. All 4 shows, World Turns, Guiding Light, One Life, and All My Children, if they had just held out a little longer and the streaming platforms had figured out their models, one or two of those shows, can't tell you which ones, I think would still be on the air. I think a streaming platform would have figured a way to have one of these shows, because they came with a large audience. I mean, that's 100%. Do you have a question before we sign off today? Ashley, I'm so glad you were able to get back on.
Thank you.
Really quick,
thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, let me ask Ashley.
Go ahead.
Ashley, do you have a favorite locker room? I asked the others.
My favorite one was probably when you interviewed Bethany Joy Lenz with Paul Wesley, Brittany Snow, and Paula Benedetti. I love that one. And the Santos family reunion. Those were my favorites.
That was good.
Very cool.
Robert, what were you going to ask me?
Oh, really quick. I was going to ask you, do you have the first issue of Soap Opera Digest in the collections?
I'm trying to think if we have the issue or the cover. I think we have one copy. There, it's so doggy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you have a place, Steph? Does Soap Digest have a place that has a copy of every issue?
No, we don't have a copy of every issue. And in fact, when we moved from one office to another, we had an office manager. We call it the treasure box now because she threw out, like when they were clearing out a room, they
Of course.
threw out a box that ultimately, like we found out later, was full of like one of a kinds that we didn't have that completed our, library.
Your library.
So when we can't find one, we're like, oh, that was in the treasure box. That's what we say.
Well, I bet you there is a fan who has it. You know,
I'm
I bet
sure.
you know.
I probably
so many,
do somewhere.
so many attics, basements, garages have boxes of Soap Opera Digest and Soap Opera Weeklies.
Yeah.
For
and TV Guide.
It's 45 years of Digest. It was
Right.
November 2020.
crazy. Now, I meant to do this because I have them all on my computer. Like I scanned my covers, but I don't have them here. I wish I had opened. I was gonna totally forgot I was gonna do some of my favorite ones that I photographed.
Well,
with guiding
it's just so funny. Because, Alan, we were talking about the Digest Awards and just sort of how glamorous and exciting it was. And the actors always said that was like the Golden Globes to the Oscars because it was a little relaxed and we had drinks at the table. And, it was in that same room where the Golden Globes are at the Beverly Hilton. But it's the same thing I say with photo shoots. Like we don't really do photo shoots anymore like we used to. And I mean, back in the day when Alan and I would work together, I mean, there was a photographer, a makeup artist, a hairstylist, a clothing stylist. We would send baskets to the actors for like doing the cover. I mean, it just was such a different, it was just such a different time, but so special for those actors.
Those for me were like most of my favorite times with the actors because I personally love photography. So I, being on a photo shoot, being creative and, helping the actors figure out what to do, on some of the things, especially the ones that we paid for. The magazines usually had ideas what they wanted, but it's just a creative environment to be in, and it was a ton of fun.
I also love the Editor's Choice Awards you guys did for like Bill Bell and Agnes Nixon and Claire Levine, and those were like so special.
I agree. It was so nice. It was such a wonderful event. And just so much planning and so much fun. And I really just think about actors today who are newcomers who don't know from that or doing photo shoots or, just how different their experience is than people we've been talking about.
And I love that when you interviewed the guy that plays Ben on Days of Our Lives. Yeah, he kept on using the F-bomb and it was like, whoa! And you guys had to pause it for a moment, because every other word, I was like, what is he doing?
Well, see, that's the difference when they're not recording. When we only have the recording, we usually take those out. But when you hear it yourself, you're hearing what we. But he's a passionate guy. That's how he talks.
Yeah.
So, it's fun.
So funny. Well, Jesse, Melissa, Wendy, Robert, Ashley, thank you so much for being here. Ashley, I will be in touch and connect you with Signe.
Okay.
And thank you for reading the magazine, and I appreciate all the support.
Alan, thank you.
Woodard,
thank you.
let me know.
Alan, thank you for doing these. Thank you for doing these, Alan.
Show.
These are amazing. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
You're very welcome.
You're the
Thanks
best. You won 2020.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
I won 2020. That's so funny.
That's right. Your claim to fame now. You won 2020.
Yeah, I guess so. Steph, this was so much fun. I'm so sorry the first half was a little discombobulated. Thanks for taking the reins.
I'm just so sorry that Ashley missed Signe, that we didn't get to see the moment, but it's so nice that you're going to connect them. I think that's great.
But it was so great hearing. I wanted to hear what Hope meant to her. I mean, that's really, the power of why we've loved them all, the soaps all these years.
Absolutely.
the power. Well, my dear, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
We'll do it again soon.
Okay. Have a good one.
Bye. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in and for staying with us. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I truly mean it when I say thank you. These past 10 months, I wouldn't have been able to do it without all of you. I also want to take a moment to pay tribute to a Guiding Light family member who we just found out had passed away in December. Our dear Joe Wilmore passed away at age 78. Joe was one of our legendary executive producers, and he was also one of our stage managers throughout the years. I know that the cast and crew love Joe, and he will sorely be missed. Have a great day, everybody, and stay safe. And don't forget, have a great day. Sorry. Bye, everybody.